Hey, everybody, it's Captain Kyle. I'm here with a very talented Amanda Tapping. You've probably seen her in Stargate SG-1, Supernatural, Travelers, Sanctuary, a whole bunch of more stuff. Plus, she's directed a bunch of episodes. And she will be appearing at Shore Leave 44, which runs from July 26th to the 28th in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, its new home. Though she's going to only be there Saturday and Sunday. But definitely you want to come and meet her. And first question is, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. It's been a beautiful day here in BC. So I'm in Vancouver right now. And I literally just got back from walking my dog in the woods. So I'm as happy as can be.
Oh, that's awesome. What kind of dog?
She's half Bouvier, a Belgian sheepdog. And then the mom was Rottweiler, Mastiff, and Boxer.
Okay.
She's only 105 pounds. She's just a little thing.
Oh, only 105 pounds. Yeah, I used to have Shih Tzus.
Super sweet. Super sweet.
That's awesome. So I do have to ask, many of the productions that you've been in have been more of a sci-fi, fantasy type feel. Are you drawn to these projects in particular, and why?
I wasn't initially until I got Stargate. I wasn't a massive sci-fi fan. I wasn't necessarily drawn to those kind of projects. I'm more drawn to the character and the story. And it could be in any sort of milieu, like, sci-fi is a great way of telling stories because the world is your oyster and the galaxy is your oyster. So it gives you a lot more opportunity. But it wasn't until Stargate that I sort of went, wow, this is a really cool venue for telling stories. And then I just found myself, I think, simply by virtue of playing a character like Sam Carter, people were like, oh, let's get that girl to do this show. So for a while there, it was a lot of sci-fi fantasy stuff. And I enjoy it. I mean, you're still telling the same stories. It's just maybe a bit more fantastical or maybe a bit more diabolical at times. But yeah, it's still, it's still character and story.
Absolutely. They say if you take a mystery and throw in a robot, it's now sci-fi. So
right? Totally. Totally.
I do have to ask, on Stargate, after many years of being on that show, it's end of season 8, there were a lot of hints that Jack and Sam were going to get together. And then season 9 started, and it kind of was like totally ignored. What happened? Was there a decision?
Rick decided not to come back because he wanted to spend more time in Los Angeles with his daughter, Wiley. And that totally made sense. And I was late coming back for season 9 because I was giving birth to my daughter. So, yeah, just kids got in the way, really, is what happened.
Okay.
But I don't know that it was, it's something Rick and I still talk about, too. I mean, there's obviously a chemistry between these two characters, and there's obviously a great love between these two characters. But it was never going to happen while both of them were in the military under each other's, in each other's back pockets, if you will. So, and I think simply by virtue of the fact that Rick decided not to come back and Ben ended up taking over, then he wasn't around. So,
well, that's it's a shame because that was just like the unrequited love. But I think it being unrequited made the series so much more interesting, seeing that chemistry. But I have to say, are there any particular memories on that show? And I asked this of Richard, Dean Anderson, and he was like, no, everything was perfect. Well, were there any particular scenes where it was very hard to get through because of, say, on-set hilarity that you can recall?
Kyle, I can recall every day having a hard time getting through scenes because of on-set hilarity. Yeah, we laugh. Like it's the craziest thing to think about it. I mean, not every day was sunshine and rainbows and butterflies, but every day we laughed. I mean, we had that ability with each other to make each other laugh every day, no matter what kind of crap was going on or what kind of politics were happening. I laughed every day, whether it be with the crew or my fellow castmates. We always, that was kind of the joy that I think translated onto the screen with Stargate. So it's not that I could give you a singular example. I mean, there were so many times where they had to yell cut because the tears were streaming down my face because I was laughing so hard, and they had to redo my makeup. Or Chris Judge, too, laughing so hard that, tears streaming down his face. That, yeah. And I just spent the weekend in just outside of Seattle with Rick, and again, we're just laughing our heads off. It's a good example too, because it does come from the top, honestly. And Rick is a great guy for that. He didn't take himself too seriously, but Richard Dean Anderson and Brad Wright and myself were in Basingstoke in May. And the three of us were trying to do a video for Brad's mom to wish her happy Mother's Day. Rick kept screwing it up, and it was like shooting Stargate. Like I would literally fell to the ground. I was laughing so hard. And I thought, there you go. And people were watching us and going, was that what it was like on your show? And we were like, that's exactly what it was like. So, yeah. we're all happy idiots.
Well, it sounds like a great environment to work in. I wish I laughed so much at work. I know a lot of people know you from Stargate, but you've done a lot of other work, and I need to ask you about a sci-fi epic that you were involved in. What can you tell me about Space Milkshake?
I knew it. I knew you were going to ask about it. As soon as you said epic, I was like, oh. And interestingly, I was just with Kristen Kruick this weekend as well, and I had just directed Kristen in a couple of episodes of her new series called Murder in a Small Town for Fox, coming out in the fall, I think April or September 24th. But anyway, I digress. And Kristen and I were talking about Space Milkshake and just like, what was that? So Robin Dunn sent me the script and I read it and just went, this is absurd. No. You know what, Robin, Regina in the wintertime, that's where we shot it. I don't know. And then he's like, got the producer and they took me to lunch and more, come on, see the joy in it, see the humor in it. And I was like, yeah, it's like funny, but it's super weird. I don't get it. And then they got Billy Boyd and Kristen, and I was like, damn, this is a really good cast. And so and it wasn't that I didn't think it was a good movie or anything. It was just like, I just couldn't picture myself going away to Regina for that at that time. And there's a cat in the gate room. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So anyway, off we go to do it. And I, again, laughed so hard. I thought I would burst. It was so bizarre and so goofy and so low budget that we just embraced all of those parts of it. We embraced the fact that it was completely insane. We embraced the fact that we didn't have a lot of money to make it. We, piggybacked on this spaceship set, and we did a lot of improv. I mean, I have this whole improv with Billy where I'm just berating him. And the crazy thing about that was I just kept going and going and coming up with new stuff and saying it. And he sat there and kept a totally straight face the entire time. And I was like, that man did not crack. And I'm cracking myself up. And he's like, So it was super special. It was really, it's a crazy, insane movie. But we had so much fun. We had so much fun.
Yeah, I saw Kristen at a convention and mentioned it, and her face just lit up. She was just like, it must have been, again, a great way to work, make a living.
You know what? Like it is. Like I try to do that as a director too. Like I think life is too short. What we do is joyful and fun, and we get to be creative. We get to do these crazy things. We should have joy while we do it. Like there's no reason not to. So
absolutely. And you yourself are a big fan of comedy. You're in a comedy troupe.
I was, yeah. That's when I started. I started out in a comedy troupe called Random Acts. It was 3 women, and we did sketch comedy, really earnest, super fun. But that's where I started, on stage doing comedy with my comedy troupe.
And yeah, your comedy chops show through in a lot. That's why in the shows that I've seen you in, it's serious, but it has that natural humor, which was really what you need. There are some shows that try to be way too serious. Now, another project that was apparently near and dear to you, I believe, was Sanctuary. And that started out as a web series that you shot. Can you tell me about that process of doing the web series before the...
Yeah, so initially, Damian Kindler had written this as a spec script. written the pilot as a spec script, and it never got picked up anywhere. And he sent it to Martin and I while we were doing Stargate. He said, "Hey, what do you think?" And then this big plan, he formed a company with these two guys, and they were like, "Let's do a web series." But unfortunately, we didn't know how to monetize. And monetization on the web, because it was all so new, was not an easy thing to do. It was easy to pirate things off the web. It was really, really hard to make money. And so the company kind of tanked, and the show did well, but it got a lot of eyeballs in our 8 webisodes that we shot. And those eyeballs were networks who came a-calling and said, "How about a TV show?" But nobody was willing to put the big money up front to make it. And we had lost our shirts on the web series. And so we found a private investor, the Beatty Group. And it's a huge ask to say, "Hey, can you give us like $20 million to make a season of television?" Anyway, creatively, Sanctuary was arguably one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had, because Martin, Damien, and I were so hands-on. We, from the writing of it, and Damien creating these scripts and getting these great writers together, to breaking down ideas, to shooting it, to doing post-production on it, to watching the vis effects come into play, to doing final color, like all of it for me, color correct, and getting our composer to do stuff. I'd learned so much on that show. And each of us took an episode as executive producers to take from start to finish. And so it wasn't just, people were like, "Oh, yeah, there, dear, you're the executive producer." It was like, no, damn it. I hustled for funds, and I dealt with the network, and I, took my episodes to finish. And so it was an incredible experience. And we worked with amazing people. Like, when I think about Sanctuary, I almost want to rewatch it. Chris Heyerdahl, Robin Dunn, first of all, who's incredible. Chris Heyerdahl and Jonathan Young, and I could go on and on. Every actor. We had Agam Darshi, Amelia Ullerup, who played my daughter in the first season. Incredible. And I almost get teary when I think about that experience, because it was so heightened. And we were always, every year we had to fight to get the money to make the show. Every year we were on the bubble. And we didn't make money. We deferred our salaries. It was ridiculous what we did to make this show. And people are like, "Oh, you must be so resentful." And I'm like, "I loved it." I loved it. I hated it at times because it was so stressful, but that was only the money part. The actual creation and the idea that it touched people in a way that I hadn't, Stargate touched people in a lot of really interesting ways. But Sanctuary was like embracing the weird and celebrating that, and acceptance and protection and rights. And so we sort of lent into all of that, and it was really remarkable. It was a great experience.
Great messages. And would you say that being so hands-on with that show and learning all the ins and outs, has that helped you as a director as well, now that you know even more about the process?
100%. 100%. So Stargate was like a PhD in how to make television, 10 seasons. I would spend a month following the grips around, and a month following the camera guys around, and a month following, I knew what hair and makeup were doing and costumes, but it was like, what do special effects guys do? Can I come on your truck? Show me your stuff. And so that gave me a great education in what goes into making an episode of television. And then, of course, just sitting behind the monitors, watching our directors. And Brad was really, really gracious and let me sit in on editing so I could see why they cut the way they cut, and, what worked and what didn't. And then Sanctuary gave me the opportunity to see the whole producing side of it from start to finish, and also to direct some episodes. And so I felt like when Sanctuary ended, I had this sort of, oh, who am I if I'm not that girl that's on that TV show you may or may not have seen 15 years? And that's when I sort of said, I have to, I'm going to fully commit to directing. And then, of course, I got a recurring role on Supernatural. So it was a nice sort of soft landing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's certainly, all of that was a great education for me. And now I think the shows that I just directed on the Sunshine Coast are my 70th episode of directing television. So it's been quite a career,
and no end in sight, I hope.
No end in sight. No. But I do love it.
Well, that's awesome. But when you do get an opportunity to act, I seeing you as Naomi on Supernatural as a bad guy. That's not who I'm used to you being. So it was definitely, you were convincing, of course, but I was like, but, shouldn't she be a good guy? Does she have some redeeming qualities? And it's
She was really misunderstood, Kyle. She was misunderstood.
of course.
I got the first hate mail I ever received from playing Naomi.
Really?
It was insane. Like, we hate Naomi clubs popping up on the internet. And I was like, whoa, this is great.
When you can create that kind of reaction in people.
Yeah, totally.
I was a big fan of Dark Matter, which unfortunately is one of those series that died before its time. And I know you directed some episodes. In my eyes, I thought I saw you in some episodes, or am I just wishful thinking there? Did you appear briefly?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, then I'm just a little deluded. It's fine.
No, I didn't. I didn't appear in Dark Matter. I don't think. My God, that's terrible. No, I'm going to say no, I did not.
But how did you enjoy the experience of directing that kind of crew?
Oh, it was great. And Joe Malazzi called me, and he and Paul had created the show in Toronto, and he offered me an opportunity to direct on it, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to be with those guys again, because, they had run Atlantis, and so, it was great. It was a great experience. The cast was incredible, and the set was cool, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I felt like, I was still so early in my career. I had done Continuum and Primevil and Sanctuary, of course, and Stargate, and maybe a couple of other things. But I still sort of had imposter syndrome, even though I'd probably directed about 10 or 11 episodes of television at that point. So I always felt like I had so much to prove. And then, of course, to Joe and Paul, I was like, I've got to do I've got to do a great job. And it was great. It was easy. It was easy to work with them, and it was just a nice shorthand. And Joe was there all the time, so it was fantastic.
And I got to say, I love also the Primevil New World, and the Continuum was an awesome series. So,
oh my gosh,
you did bang up.
Great.
Yeah,
a great series. Yeah,
and the ending, little,
We'll be needing this. Yeah.
But back to Stargate, there's been a lot of rumors around about a new series, a reboot, new movies. I don't know if they've spoken to you about it, or if you're in a position to say whether or not they've spoken to you about it. I mean, would you come back as maybe General Carter, or?
We haven't heard anything official. I think there was some pretty forward-moving talk at one point with MGM. And now Amazon owns MGM, so I'm not sure whether that's just slid away. I know Brad wrote a script. And I was General Carter, and I think I was in charge of the SGC. Better have been.
You don't want Bo Bridges back saying, hey, got to take care of the Ori.
Yes, my God. The fact that we got somebody like Bo Bridges on Stargate, like, oh my God, amazing. But yeah, as of now, nothing official. Like, I'm not being cagey or cute. We don't know anything. We've talked about it, and Brad and Rick and I talked about it when we were together in England, and for sure, and I've talked to Michael about it, and we'd all sort of jump back on. It wouldn't be SG-1 rebooted. It would be a new iteration of Stargate that we would, be somewhat involved with, but not as, we'd all be.
You probably wouldn't be going on missions to other planets.
Well, if we could take our walkers with us, then yeah.
I don't think you need a walker.
Not yet.
Other than Sam, any other characters you'd care to reprise?
Oh, I'd reprise Helen Magnus in a heartbeat. I loved her. She scared the crap out of me, that character. I didn't fully understand her or her decisions, but she was so brave and so ballsy and took no prisoners. And, Sam was wonderful. And I love Sam Carter, and I would reprise her in a heartbeat, but she's very by the book, which is as it should be. She's military, and this is how she grew up, and this is what she believes in. Whereas Helen was like, screw the rules. I'm going to do what I want and what I know is right. And so she took chances even with the people that she loved. And of course, Helen also is so much more jaded than Sam. I mean, she's lived so much longer and watched the people she loves die and has experienced great loneliness. And so, she's a lot darker than Sam. And I would reprise her in a heartbeat. She was really interesting.
Any chance of like a movie, follow-up movie at some point? It would
be so great. We have talked about it. It would be fantastic. We don't own the IP. So that's another thing when you are independent and other people finance you. You tend to lose control of the intellectual property. But, in order to make the show. So we don't even own the IP. So, yeah. But I would do that again for sure.
Well, I do see that you're part of another project coming up called Levels, and your character name seems to be all in capital letters. So I'm wondering, are you just providing a voice, or are you an actual character?
Yeah. I'm a voice in Levels, and it's I'm sort of like the automated apartment. I'm the voice of it, but it's interesting because I tried to play her with a little bit of humanity, even though she's clearly an AI voice and a computer. But I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if this far along, if there's actually she does care about the person who lives in the apartment, and she does care about his well-being and his psyche. And so, yeah, it was fun.
Well, that's cool. Looking forward to that and hearing you. Are there any other upcoming projects that you can discuss?
What can I tell you about? Dead Boy Detectives I directed, which is on Netflix right now, season 1. That was a phenomenal experience also. So that was Steve Yoki created that. And Steve Yoki wrote a few of the episodes of Supernatural that I directed. So it's all nice little family. So I directed Dead Boy Detectives, one of the episodes, and that was really cool. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it. It's really...
I've started watching it. The first couple episodes, very interesting. It's
really and it's part of the Neil Gaiman universe, and I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. So, and I used to read my daughter Neil Gaiman books when she was younger. Like, Fortunately, The Milk was one of our favorite books. And so I was thrilled to be able to direct on that. Murder in a Small Town, which I told you about, Kristen Kruick, and a wonderful actor, Rossip Sutherland, one of Donald Sutherland's sons. And we did that on the Sunshine Coast, and that comes out in the fall. And I'm actually, it's a really cool show. It's a really sweet show, sweet and kind of creepy and sweet, sweet, creepy, sweet, but wonderful actors on it. So,
well, that is awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're remaining busy and involved, and that there's still some hope of seeing you back on a Stargate show. I think you were in all of them, except maybe Stargate Infinity, which was the animated one.
Right.
Were you involved in that one at all?
No, I was not. Kyle, why not?
I don't know. They should have had you cameo, little cartoon you would have been really cool. But all the live action ones you managed to be a part of, which is quite the accomplishment. So
it was fun.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there anything you'd like to say to your fans, though, before we finish up?
Well, it's been interesting because I didn't do a lot of conventions for a while there. I was really busy and I had to cancel conventions. And just recently, I've sort of started to go back out. And the reason I like to do it is because I get to meet the fans and face to face and say thank you and talk about, what's going on. Like I'm working with the Companion website with a huge mental health initiative. And part of that is about fandom. Hugely about how fandom is so super supportive of each other, and sci-fi fans in particular, and I would say Stargate fans even more particular, are just a really generous, kind-hearted group of people. And so I would say, first of all, thank you for being that, for being so accessible and so caring of each other and holding space for each other. It's really delightful to watch it. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would say thank you for being like the best fandom.
Well, You're welcome. I will speak on behalf of them because I'm definitely a fan of sci-fi and conventions. Speaking of which, again, you will be at Shore Leave 44. For everyone watching, that is July 26th, 28th. If you go to shore-leave.com, you can get tickets and get more information, and there's some other wonderful guests there, including
Carol Rothery will be there. So
Yep.
Terrell and I will be together, and that will be a hoot. Yeah.
She seems very fun.
She's super fun, and we always have a good laugh when we're together. We always have a really good laugh and a really good cry. We just like dive right in. And it's brilliant. We go for dinner and we're like, yeah, it's a little insane,
Okay.
but it's wonderful.
Well, it's a shame we'll miss you for karaoke on Friday night, though. So
Yeah, I'm sorry.
that's all right. We'll sing something in your honor. Any particular song you want us to sing?
I'll let you know, Kyle. I'll let you know. Is Terrell going to do karaoke?
I don't know. That would be cool. I have seen lots of guests step up to the karaoke mic and belt out some really interesting renditions. Some of them were good.
You're really, really very diplomatic. That's nice.
I try to be. You know, I don't want to get you guys mad at me. You might shove me through the gate. But yeah, it was wonderful talking to you, and so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone out there for watching. And we will see you hopefully at Shore Leave. But no matter what, I want you to have fun and follow your fandom.
Hi, this is Michael Shanks, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. The fate of the universe may depend on it. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.